I didn't need Sling. I didn't need Fubo or anything else. Joel Klatt never left my YouTube TV. He was there ready to go this past Saturday. Reliable Joel Klatt.
And in high definition.
And in 4K.
He was in 4K.
And in 4K.
He was in 4K. Yeah. He had Ohio State and Indiana. What is up, Klatt? How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Gosh, man, I love November. Isn't it just different? Like we roll over and now it's like real. All the games early in the season are so much fun and we get excited for them, but now it's real. There's injuries, teams are fighting, scratching. I mean, outside of like the Citadel games and everything that you guys like to play, November is the best.
You know, the easiest way to know it's November is watch a Miami game. If they lose,
yeah, buddy,
you know it's Mario Cristobal. It's November.
Yeah. Oh man, Mario lost. I need to turn Mario lost.
Turn on, if you don't know what month it is, just turn on Miami or Maryland, and just like, oh, it's September. They look incredible.
That's how we know to turn our clocks 45. Back.
Yeah,
Mario loses the game he's not supposed to. Oh, you got to turn it back an hour.
Mario savings time.
Hey, this is gonna be.
And they're like we're in a cold weather game in Dallas. You know?
This is going to be one of those years, though, where the Group 5, and look, and I'm all about the Group 5 getting in this thing. You know, I thought Boise.
Are you?
I thought.
I mean, I don't.
Well, okay. Well, well, here's what I was going to say.
Guys, what are we doing? It's such a. It's in a way to avoid litigation. That's all it is.
Okay, well, here's going to be my point.
They should go have their own national championship.
Okay,
please.
Okay, but
I'm
I'll let you roll.
For it. But they just take up a spot for nothing.
Outside of them absolutely taking up a spot this year, the ACC is going to do the same thing. The ACC is garbage.
Throw them out.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to see where your take was on that because
throw them out.
The ACC does not deserve a team in the 12-team playoff this year.
I think that there should be a provision that if your champion isn't in the top 10 or 12 in the country, that you don't get inclusion. Like, is Virginia going to go? Now, granted, here's the thing. I can respect and really admire what Tony Elliott has done at Virginia, which is totally admirable, guys. Like, he's done an excellent job at Virginia. And obviously, in hindsight, maybe the success at Clemson was more because of Tony and Brent Venables than it was Dabo. And because of what we've seen since they left, both of them. So Tony Elliott has done an incredible job at Virginia. And there is no world whatsoever where Virginia is even a top 15 team in the country. Like, not even close. They're not a top 6 team in either the SEC or the Big Ten. Not even close. In the SEC, probably not even top 9. So what are we doing?
As an outsider, we've spent now almost 24 hours breaking down the Hugh Freeze dismissal down on the plains and what is and what isn't the Auburn job. From the outside, what is the Auburn job?
Do you want to ask me this?
Yeah.
Please.
This could be, oh boy. Guys, it's not a good job. Like, I don't, cue all the Auburn fans getting all upset. Their expectations are over their skis. They aren't even the best job in their own state. Like, not, to be a good job, you've got to be a top job, top 2, 3 job, 4 job in your conference. They're not even the best job in their own state. And it's not even like close. Obviously, it's Alabama goodness gracious. And yet the problem is that Auburn's expectations are in line with Alabama's expectations. And it's just like, hey, like, that ain't it. It's like the sister of the beauty queen that just ain't quite, you know what I mean? Like, she comes along a few years later and she's like, my sister was the homecoming queen. It's like, yeah, well, you ain't your sister.
That end of answer? Is that where we are? End of answer?
Well, with that said,
Auburn ain't Alabama.
Okay.
Well, I brought this up.
So they bring in all of these guys, don't give them enough time to build, and then fire them as if they're supposed to be Alabama next year. And like that, so that's where it's like, listen, if there was some measure of patience at Auburn, I think it would be a better job because they've got resources. They want to win. Those are good things. They've got a history. Now, granted, their national championship was with a player that maybe more so than any singular player in the history of our sport dragged their team to a national championship with Cam Newton, and I know that they went back, what was it, Nick Marshall and played the Winston team, the Florida State team. And so they've had success. I'm not saying that you can't have success at Auburn. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the way that they operate is not in line with what they are as a program. And that ruffles a lot of feathers when you say that about any team, by the way. And there's other jobs like that. I've said that about, Michigan State at times, and their fans get all upset. But it's the truth. Like you can't be a great job if you're not even the best job in your own state.
Well, and the fact of the matter is we've been doing this show a long time together, but this will be the 5th full-time Auburn coach once they hire it in the 15 years we've been doing this show. And I brought this up, and there were some Auburn fans that got on my ass because they were like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I said it earlier in the show. If Eli Drinkwitz is offered this job, I don't think he would leave Missouri. And you tell me what you think there.
I totally agree with you.
And then the other thing
Why would he leave Missouri?
This went a little bit more controversial. John Sumrall, who, if Auburn is smart, would hire if he'll take the job. But I just brought up the fact, if something happens with Stoops, just hear me out, and if his alma mater in Kentucky was open and he chose between Kentucky and Auburn, and I brought up the expectation thing and how much more patient Kentucky they are with their coaches, football coaches, do you think there's a chance Sumrall would pass on Auburn to go back to his alma mater and coach Kentucky?
That's a great question. And the fact that it's worth pondering, I think tells you everything about the job, right? Let me go back to your first point. I wholeheartedly agree. I read some stuff and they're like, well, obviously they're going to go get Lane. Like, there's no way you would leave Ole Miss for Auburn. Just ain't happening, especially with Florida and LSU open. And then Drinkwitz, I wouldn't leave Missouri because I feel like, again, I think that's their expectation is more in line with what their program is. The Kentucky one is interesting. If you believe that you need time to go and build what you want to build and do it right, like Tony Elliott at Virginia, right? He's had a few years, and now he's reaping the rewards of that. Then you go to Kentucky, because Auburn is going to think that they're going to go and next year compete for it. And then if you lose your first three SEC games, they'll be sitting there like, well, what are we going to do now? So yeah, I think it's tough because I think Auburn is a great program. I love Auburn as a program. I think it's better when Auburn is a top tier SEC team, but this is not a job that's that attractive, but it's because of the way the people around the program have behaved in the last 15 years. Again, it's about expectation. It's about pulling the trigger as quick as possible. Plus, you guys know, probably even more so than I, but I've got, enough connections to know that, like, when it starts going south at Auburn, it gets nasty. And there's, the Harsin stuff and everything going, there's a lot going on at that place.
Joel Klatt is with us on the Alexander Shannara Trial Attorneys Hotline. The big noon kick Saturday is Indiana at Penn State. Penn State showed some life in the first half against Ohio State. Can I just ask? Okay, can I just ask? Like, did you not have? I'm just going to ask, Klatt. You don't have to answer this. Can y'all not do Big 12 games in the Big Noon Kick? Are you not allowed to? Like, why would you not? BYU Texas Tech is maybe the best game in the country.
Well, for sure. Well, I don't believe we had access to that.
Okay.
Pick.
Well, what about
we still share that? We still share that with ESPN.
Okay, fair enough.
And so, the draft, and I think that's an ESPN pick.
Yeah.
BYU Texas
Tech.
Tech.
It's on ABC, so yeah, Disney had the pick there.
Yeah. So they chose that before we could even get to it. Now,
Oregon,
there
Iowa.
There are.
I mean, did y'all have that one? Could y'all have picked Oregon, Iowa? I'm just asking the question. I don't know how this works, Klatt. I'm not trying to pour salt in the wounds. I just don't know how this works. Could y'all have done Oregon, Iowa?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Is this a you pick?
Did
No. No.
Hey, but this conference is about to get crazy when we talk about the fourth or fifth team, because we brought this up earlier, Klatt. If Iowa beats Oregon this week and USC does what they need to do in the Coliseum, and I'm not saying these are great teams by any means. Jade Maeva was...
Well, of course you're not. They're not in the SEC. So please,
Maeva was as bad as
understood.
He could possibly play. With all that said, if USC wins and Iowa wins this week, then the next 2 weeks after that, you have USC and Iowa, two two-loss teams, one-loss Big Ten teams, and then 2 weeks after that, you've got USC going to Oregon. So, like... It's going to be really interesting to see that fourth team from the Big Ten that gets in.
Yeah, almost as if college football fans really care about the college football playoff.
Yeah.
And, that we should be doing games that are centered around the college football playoff narrative. Yeah, interesting. Weird. Someone may have been making that argument internally that didn't win. So we're going to Penn State, so that'll be fun. They've lost 5 in a row, and get to see Indiana blow the doors off of them. I do think that the issue around potentially like a fourth team out of the Big Ten is fascinating, because Iowa is playing a lot better football, even though the AP doesn't give them a ton of credit. I do think the committee tomorrow night is going to rank Iowa, just because, guys, they lose on a field goal early in the season to Iowa State in a rivalry game. They're tied 13-13 with Indiana, and with under 2 minutes to go at home, and end up, losing that game in tough fashion. The committee's going to look at that and be like, Indiana is one of the 2 best teams in the country, maybe 3 best teams in the country if if you're throwing A&M in there as well. So I don't see any possibility that Iowa is not ranked. And so that now all of a sudden you've got Oregon going to Iowa, which is going to be an incredible game. So I hope Brad and Gary have an incredible time there. They will call a phenomenal game. And I do think that one's going to be a good one. Like, Oregon's not going to run away from that Iowa team. They're playing really good on the defensive side. They're running the ball well. It's typical Iowa. They don't throw it well. But they'll be tough to beat at home. And then you start looking up and, Oregon's got a tough November. And everyone's just assuming Oregon's going to be this 11-1 in the playoff for sure. They've got to go to Iowa. They still have to play USC at home. And then, guys, they have to go to Washington. And that's another team that I think is better than some around the country believe. And that's a team that, at least up to that point, doesn't have a ton on their schedule, and they could be playing as a 9-2 against Oregon at home with a chance to be 10-2. Michigan, if they continue to win these ugly games, could be a 9-2 playing Ohio State in the last week of the season with a chance to be a 10-2. So that that fourth team from the Big Ten is a fascinating few weeks that's about to play out.
This Texas Tech BYU game. I'm surprised at what BYU has done without their quarterback. They may have a better quarterback now in Bear Bachmeier. And then there's the discussion about Texas Tech buying this roster, and they're continuing to do well in recruiting and their access now to being maybe a big-time championship contender player. In that game, when we watched that this week on a side TV, obviously not your big game on my big TV, on a side TV, BYU Texas Tech. What am I going to see?
Can't get enough of the coachless Penn State Nittany Lions
on a
I will be losing streak.
I will be tuned in to see if Indiana can go over 50 points again.
That's right.
That's what I'll be tuned in for.
That's the storyline, yeah.
Because they're so good. This Texas Tech BYU winner, can they make noise when they get to the playoffs? Is Texas Tech that talented if they win this?
Yeah. I think BYU is limited, even though they're great. Listen, I love BYU, and they're physical, and Kalani Sitake has done a really nice job with them. And Bear Bachmeier has done a heck of a job as a young quarterback. I do think that they're limited, though, just at the top end. Somebody is going to corral Bachmeier, and then it's like, where do we go from there? Whereas Tech has more answers. They've been able to run the football. They've been able to throw the football. I think defensively, people should I think because it's Texas Tech, people don't believe that they're playing quality defense, but they are. Yeah. That's one of the better defenses in the country. And in this matchup specifically, they've got a guy that I think is perfectly suited to play BYU and their quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, and that's Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez is likely going to be in the Buckus Award finalist list. He's an excellent player. All-American caliber player at the linebacker position. They've got two ends that are very good, David Bailey and Romello Height. And, that's a good defense. Sheil Wood is their coordinator. He came from Houston this last year. And if you look at his history over the last 4 years, he's done a heck of a job wherever he's been. He's been at Troy and Houston, now at Texas Tech, different places. Really, really good coach. And so that's a team that has the ability to go to the playoff and win a game or two because they've got answers. Whereas I think BYU, as great as the story is, they are maximizing their roster currently. And I don't know how much more they have over top of that. And once you get to the playoff, when you face a team that can be physical with you or be faster, more athletic with you, where do you go? What's the answer? And that's where I think BYU would struggle in the playoff.
You gave one of the most amazing stats I have ever heard in your telecast on Saturday. And I thought your stat guy had messed you up, but you said it so confidently, I think your stat guy didn't even give it to you. I think it was all you. Boys, and this is where Dunaway was like, Brown, I said this on the show last week. If he did, I missed it. We are in the third quarter of the first game played in the month of November for Ohio State. And Klatt tells me after a pass interference that was the first time all season long a team had gotten a pass interference called on them against Ohio State. I'll say that again. We are in the third quarter of the first game of November.
That can't be correct.
The first game of November, and nobody had been
called
for pass
interference. It's absolutely correct.
That is insane.
It's just wild.
It's no way.
It's just wild.
How? Are they not close enough to the receivers? I mean, how do you not get pass interference?
That's a good one. Two things. Number one is Ohio State doesn't just launch the ball down the field, and so when they take they're very calculated with their shots. So it's not like there's a ton of opportunity. And then two is I think officiating in college football is horrendous this year, and specifically the pass interference call. And I don't think they know how to officiate it. I think that it's a total crapshoot. And typically what I see, because they're so poor at officiating the call goes toward the smaller player. So if you're just a more physical player, it doesn't matter where the restriction is happening or what contact or who's initiating. It's the player that the contact affects the most, which ends up being the smaller player. Well, Ohio State's wide receivers are big players. They fight through contact. So even though there's contact being made, it doesn't seem like it restricts them as much as others. That would be my only plausible explanation.
The most controversial PI was probably in Clemson this weekend. Dabo let us know about it, although he didn't want to talk about it. I got to bring up, I disagree with James Franklin getting fired. I disagree with Brian Kelly getting fired. I don't think Dabo should go anywhere.
Wait, with the timing or just overall?
Just overall. I mean, I still like it to me. Yeah, I mean, Franklin was in the semis last year. I can't explain what's going on this year. Brian Kelly won 10 games both the first 2 years. Anyway, with all that said, I don't think Dabo should be able to leave when he wants to leave. But, and I know we've probably asked you this before, how can you explain what is going on, though, with Clemson right now at 3-5? This is going into a season. There were a lot of people who believed they were going to win it all. I think you might have had them winning it all.
I did.
Yeah.
They gave Texas everything they could handle last year in the playoff. And then they brought, 16 starters back, including their quarterback? Yeah. That was like a no-brainer in the offseason. I was like, well, they're going to be really good, obviously.
You know what we said? We said gun to head, if you had to pick one team to make the college football playoff, one team to win their conference, easy Clemson.
Yeah.
To just be the playoffs,
I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. Their offensive line played really poorly. I mean, that's number one. Their quarterback played poorly. I wish that I could cover them so I could really like study their film. These teams that I cover, just so you guys know, like the teams that I'm going to cover on a week in and week out basis, I've watched every single snap Ohio State has played, and Indiana has played, and Penn State has played, and Michigan has played, and Oregon has played. And then what I try to do is as best I can spot all the other films. So I watched Oklahoma, Tennessee, Texas, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Florida, these other games, but I can't get to everything. Well, once Clemson lost, I kind of stopped getting to their film. So I don't have a great schematic answer for you. All I can tell you is that in this day and age, and every coach has told me this, is that it's harder now, more so than ever before, to maintain a team first mentality in the locker room. And every single guy tells me about the razor's edge that is the locker room every single day, not week to week, every day, about selfishness, who's bought in, who's not bought in. And that looks like a team that lost buy-in from afar. Okay, I haven't covered them. I don't know in that locker room, but from what I've been talking to about, or what I've been talking about with coaches around the country and their concern about their locker rooms and the buy-in and the culture of their locker rooms, it sure seems like Dabo lost that locker room early, lost the culture of that locker room early, and because of that, they're sitting here and they're 3-5, which makes no sense, 0 sense. They are more talented than a bunch of these teams that they're playing, and they can't win the football game. And then the last thing that I would just say is just from a coaching perspective, I think he's missed on coordinators ever since Tony and Brent left. And this is where I wish I could have watched the film. What you see on film, you're either coaching or allowing. Period.
Right. Yeah.
And so, if it's not working, then at some point it comes down to coaching.
LSU, Alabama this week, both off of a bye. It's a rivalry game. LSU with an interim coach and a new play caller. How do you prepare? Just in a big sense here, if you're Kane Womack and the Alabama defense, for a team that you don't know how they're going to call plays. They've got talent. It's going to be different, I guess.
I would not want to be in this position if I was Kane. This is not a great position to face a team that has talent, that has nothing to lose now, that can kind of go and empty the kitchen sink. I think that you try to go and you try to gain some. Well, here's the thing. In the middle of the year, you're not going to get a drastic change offensively. So you start there. And then you start to think to yourself, okay, what are the things that they will almost certainly try to break from a tendency perspective? What are the things that did not work for them? And then you've got to prepare very well for them to break those tendencies or to try to correct those mistakes of what's been happening so far on the field. And then you've got to be prepared for everything. So when I talk about like the soundness of the structure of the Alabama defense, I think Kane would take less chances in this game. He would try to maintain more levels of defense, less what I would say aggressive structure or less levels of defense. When you blitz and when you manipulate the defense, there's less levels. And I would try to retain those in particular in support structures, because you just don't know what's going to happen as far as trick plays, aggressive play calling, things of that nature. And then the last thing that I would do is you can get yourself all bound up into like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? And you can actually freeze your players. It's called paralysis by analysis. You guys have heard that, obviously. And so the last thing that I would do is I would emphasize all week, block tackle, get off blocks, tackle well, get off blocks, tackle well. Because the bottom line is when it comes to defense, and I think Alabama is good enough from a skill position on defense and talent-wise to do this, which is line up correctly, be fundamentally sound, run to the football, and tackle well. And if they do those things, they should win. And when they don't do those things, they can get themselves in trouble. But when there's any indecision about what you're about to see, emphasizing those foundational things, I think, are really vital and important.
Joel Klatt,
They were over-prepared for the Florida State game. They were worried about Gus Malzahn and all the things he could do. and they seemed like they were on their heels the whole game. That's what you're talking about, right?
I mean, I guess. I mean, they just didn't. They played so bad.
We'll never explain that.
They played so bad in that game. But also, let's go back to my last point. Did they tackle well in space?
No.
No, exactly. So that makes up for so many different things from a schematic standpoint. And you might be right. I think that they could have probably gotten themselves into a point where they were playing slow because they were thinking too much. But you have got to tackle in space. If your bigs play well and your littles tackle on defense, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. And that's what they're going to need, obviously, this week. And then in that Florida State game, the offensive line played so bad. That's because when Alabama wins against almost everybody in the country if their O-line protects and their defense tackles in space. I really believe it's that easy for them.
Joel Klatt's on the Alexander Shannara Trial Attorneys Hotline. You mentioned this as one of the games you'll watch film on. Have you watched Oklahoma, Tennessee yet or no? Have you gotten to that? Okay.
Yep, I did.
And this may be difficult to pick up on film to answer this question thoroughly, but Tennessee stopped nobody. I mean, they haven't stopped anybody all year. And here's Mateer, 19 of 29, 159 and a pick. Do you think it is still the thumb, or are teams catching up to Ben Arbuckle?
OU's offense is really bad.
Okay, that's the answer.
Outside of Mateer.
Yeah.
It just is. And OU fans are after me because I keep saying, like, hey, they're not running it well. And they're like, we had a 100-yard back. It's like, hey, you guys didn't do anything. And the fact of the matter is that game was there for Tennessee to win and to dominate. They were dominating the early stretches of that game. Dominating. In fact, at halftime, I believe it was like it's like 255 yards to 99.
Yep.
Like, it's not even close. And yet they're down 16-10. And why? Because Tennessee refuses to play complementary football. See, like, OU's offense is not very good. Unless John Mateer scrambles around and gets you a first down, they're not going to move the football. And they weren't doing it against Tennessee, and Tennessee's defense is not very good at all. But why is Tennessee's defense not very good? Well, because they're exposed. Why are they exposed? Because their offense doesn't protect them. Their offense continues to go on this high-tempo pace, and they're moving the ball up and down the field in the first two quarters. And yet, then they make a mistake. And their offensive tackle, he whiffs on a defensive end. It's a strip sack, and all of a sudden OU is tied in the football game, even though their offense hasn't done anything. And then everything that was working for Tennessee early in the game, namely inside breaking routes, deep ends, intermediate routes over the middle of the field, all of a sudden vanish. And I'm like, what is going on? And then it dawns on me. I'm like, well, this is the offense. It's deep choice offense, which means that the wide receivers have a choice of where they're going to go. So all of a sudden, they start throwing all these go balls and fade balls, and I'm like, well, these suck. What are they doing? Why aren't they attacking the structure of the defense like they did in the first quarter? The play caller can't do that because everything's a choice route from the wide receiver, so you're leaving it up to the 18 to 22-year-olds. Their run game is non-existent. It's a token handoff here or there, and they run so many plays that they don't protect the defense. Guys, how about this for a stat? You thought that stat about Ohio State and the PI was crazy. If you look at Ohio State's defense, they are protected by their offense. Ohio State could score 60 points if they wanted to. Everybody knows it. That's probably the best passing game in the country when they want to do it. But they don't. Why? Because right now, their defense is only seeing 57 snaps per game. Meanwhile, Tennessee's defense is seeing 73 snaps per game. Wow. Average that out over a 12-game period. Guess what it is? 195 more snaps that Tennessee's defense is going to see versus Ohio State's defense.
Jeez.
Well, you tell me which defense is going to be better.
Yeah.
Why? Because they run an old Big 12 Art Briles style of offense that doesn't compete at the top level. It doesn't win championships. It doesn't beat quality opponents. And OU should have been thoroughly dominated. That game at halftime should have been 20-3, but Tennessee refuses to allow their team to work as a complementary unit. They just want to go score 50 points and, by God, everything else be damned, and you get beat because of it.
As a kid growing up, I always wanted to see these monumental sports records broken. 61 for Roger Maris. I never thought I would see it. Not to the degree, but something we haven't brought up on this show, Tom Dempsey with the club foot kicking the 63-yarder. I didn't know if we would ever see that. It's a different era of kickers. But Cam Little makes a 68-yarder yesterday, which was insane. But I wanted to ask you, a guy that played in a ton of altitude games, You even went through the circus, which was Katie Knight. I know she wasn't involved in this.
I wasn't there when she listen. I want to be very clear about
no
that.
circus.
What a mess. What was the longest kick you ever saw, like in those altitude games?
So I played with Mason Crosby. He was my kicker, and then obviously was a kicker for the Packers for years. And if we had to have it, all I needed to do was get the ball to the 50-yard line, which was a 68-yard kick. So in practice, I saw him make 69, 70, 72, 73. He had an absolute cannon for a leg. So there was a game, actually, I think it was Colorado State, I want to say, and we're on like the minus 35-yard line. There's like 35 seconds left. And in my mind, I'm like, hey, we're one completion away from winning this thing. And then we're on the minus 35. And literally, I threw a slant pass, and one of our receivers catches the slant, and he gets up to about the plus 45. And I was like, well, no more chances there. No more sacks, no more chances. It's in the bag. And sure enough, Mason hit like a 54-yard field goal. We ran it a couple of times, and he hit a 54. And it was like, over the net, So yeah, I mean, I've seen some craziness, but 68 in an NFL game is wild.
Yeah, watching him line up, man, it didn't even seem real.
Yeah, I know, and they are talking about they've reformulated the kicking ball rule. Like these footballs that they're using now are much more broken in than they have been over the last few years. So they allow the guys to actually work these footballs and break them in versus just like straight out of the cellophane, which has been what's been happening in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's a huge difference. You ask any kicker and they're like, oh, I mean, that's 10, 12 yards just if you can break the football in.
That's wild. All right, Penn State is playing host to Indiana.
I know we're late. But guys, was that not the best baseball game you've ever?
Phenomenal.
Incredible.
Oh, my gosh.
First time it's been mentioned on the show today because we've talked a lot of football.
Hey,
but
you got to take a lead off third base, man. Got to take a lead.
Oh,
He's standing
how
on the
about that?
base. He's standing on the
How
base.
about that?
well, I didn't know.
It's just little things. By the way, you know what the Dodgers are? They're like Georgia. It's like you can't just expect that they're going to lay down, and you're going to win the game. And this is, that was incredible.
Yeah,
that was as good. That was as good of a baseball game as I can ever remember watching. It was amazing.
It was just inches, everything.
Yeah,
I mean, the catch by Pius in the outfield. I mean, the game was over at that point.
I didn't play at your level, but at third base, I mean, when he's approaching the plate, you're walking a little bit, and then you're not risking the biscuit getting down the line or anything, but you're walking and getting ready to run on the pitch. And
of course,
he's one step off the bag, and it's
because it's okay. So the technical, it's loaded, so it's a contact play.
Yeah,
right. Like you have to go on contact. There's no read. There's no reason to be back at the bag. Muncy is in, so you have at minimum you need to be even or past Muncy because you're going to beat him back to the bag. So the fact that he's behind Muncy is just like, oh my gosh, release him tomorrow. Yep. It makes no sense. None whatsoever.
But great play from Rojas.
Yeah, it was. Heck of a play.
Oh, dude. How about Miggy Rojas? Yeah. I mean, what a 2 days for that guy. Doesn't play in a month, and he's hitting bombs. The pick in Game 6 to double him up, he's like between his legs.
And the Yamamoto. I mean, I remember there was a guy locally. His name was Steve Gaines, pitched at midfield. Dunaway, I don't know if you remember this. But he pitched every inning of like the 1988 high school playoffs, and they ended up winning championship, and I think his arm was gone forever, never played at another level. But Yamamoto, it didn't matter. Like that guy, what he did was absolutely insane.
I mean, I couldn't believe when I saw him actually warming up. I was blown away. And then when you hear other big leaguers, and they said like, we look back and Yamo was warming up, and we were like, what's going on? I mean, that tells you everything that you need to know. But not only that, but then he was effective.
Yeah.
It's one thing to go out there and pitch. Like, you can do that on just sheer guts, I guess. But then to be effective and get the movement and have the command, that's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. It was an incredible series. I mean, I feel sorry for the Blue Jays, but again, like they had their chances. They had so many chances, and they couldn't get it done. It's like Georgia, facing a 4th and 1, and Florida just decides to run fullback dive.
What?
Hey, I was sweating though.
What are we doing?
I thought Kershaw was going to get in this game.
Oh God, thank God he didn't.
Oh, thank goodness he didn't. Can you imagine if the last thing was you couldn't put him in, right?
No.
Dave Roberts couldn't put him in, right?
He was warming up.
Indiana at Penn State is the Fox Big Noon Kick, 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock.
That's right.
That's it. That's
right.
the one right there. Penn State, one of these days, they're going to win a game here.
Yeah. Not a whiteout. It's not a whiteout.
It is not a whiteout. No. Probably empty seats, honestly, Jim. Probably the opposite of a whiteout. You'll see Klatt and Gus and the All-American Girl. They'll still do it, man.
Must-win game for Indiana. No, not even a must-win game for Indiana.
Nope, probably still going to
buy. Is there
buy.
any implications on anything
CFP
related?
None whatsoever.
No.
BYU Texas Tech, on the other hand. All right.
Oregon Iowa could be an elimination game.
Yes. Almost as if people care about the playoffs, Klatt. Joel Klatt on the Alexander Shannara Trial Attorneys Hotline. Have a great week, Klatt. We'll see you next Monday.
Yeah, whatever.
See you. Klatt with us on the Shannara Hotline.